Welcome back. We're diving into a stack of sources today, really digging into why people do good things.
Mm.
For others,
Hmm.
for society. We're exploring prosocial behavior.
That's right. And the material you've shared, it pulls from, well, all over. Academic research studies, real-world stuff, covering cooperation, morality, helping, the whole spectrum, really.
And our mission, yours and mine, is to sort of sift through this, pull out the key nuggets for you. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe?
Hmm.
Understanding what drives us to act for others. Is it just following rules or,
Mm.
risking everything? What's behind it? Nature, nurture.
Yeah, and I think this dive will, well, I'll probably throw up some surprises, challenge some assumptions people have, and hopefully give you a clearer way to think about human goodness, not just the big flashy stuff, but the everyday choices too.
Okay, let's get into it then. The sources, they start off by saying pro-social behavior isn't just, grand gestures, heroics. It's fundamental stuff too. Obeying rules, conforming, cooperating, things that keep the wheels turning.
Exactly. And actually, the argument in the sources is pretty strong. Obeying rules and cooperating. They're more essential for society than, say, helping behavior.
Yeah.
Helping is great, it's like a bonus, but if rules collapse, society falls apart fast.
So rule following,
Yeah.
which often gets a bad rap, right? That's actually pro-social.
For the most part, yeah. The sources definitely frame it that way. It serves the collective good. And built on that, you have reciprocity, this obligation we feel to give back what we get.
Like a social contract, almost. You
Yeah.
help me, I feel I owe you one.
Precisely.
But it's not always direct, is it? I saw this idea of upstream reciprocity.
Right. Where you don't pay back the person who helped you, you pay it forward to someone else entirely.
Mm.
Yeah, the sources had some great examples, that whole pay it forward idea from the book and film. Or real stories like the guy Dean Young giving cookies, getting help back, then helping the helper. Or buying tires for someone and just asking them to help someone else down the line. It's become a whole movement.
And that exchange idea, paying forward or back, leads straight to fairness, doesn't it? The sources even suggest we might be born to be fair.
Fairness is definitely a core cultural thing, and humans seem to get it in a really sophisticated way, maybe more than other animals. The sources distinguish equity, getting out what you put in, proportionally from equality, where everyone just gets the same slice, both seen as fair, depending.
And how we react to unfairness is telling. You mentioned that monkey study,
Ah.
where they kicked off or if they got cucumber when the other guy got a grape. They definitely didn't like being under-benefited.
Right. But what's really interesting, and maybe uniquely human, is that we also worry about being over-benefited. Getting less makes you angry, sure, but getting more than you feel you deserve, that often brings on guilt. That sensitivity to both sides, it's crucial for our whole system of social exchange. Always taking more than you give gets you sidelined.
So this sense of fairness, it's tied up with feeling valued, feeling like you belong and contribute.
Seems like it. The sources even note that feeling like a taker, someone who doesn't pull their weight, is a major cause of depression. And tragically, some suicides might even stem from feeling like such a burden that you can't possibly reciprocate the help you've received. It's heavy stuff.
Wow. Okay, so moving from those basics,
Yeah.
cooperation, working together for mutual benefit, that's another huge one.
Absolutely vital, called a vital foundation of culture. Large societies just wouldn't work without complex cooperation.
But it's not always straightforward, cooperating. The sources use the prisoner's dilemma game to explore this. Can you quickly remind us? Bart and Mac, arrested.
Yeah.
They can confess or stay loyal.
Right, the dilemma is stay loyal, cooperate, and both get a light sentence best for the pair. Confess, defect, and you might go free if the other stays loyal. But if both confess, you both get a medium sentence. And if you stay loyal while they confess, you get the long sentence. What's best for you individually clashes with the group outcome.
And the strategy that often wins out in repeated plays is tit for tat.
Yeah. Basically reciprocal cooperation. Start nice, cooperate. Then just copy whatever the other person did last time. They cooperate, you cooperate. They defect, you defect next round.
What really struck me here is how fragile cooperation can be. One person defects and boom, the whole thing can spiral into competition where nobody really wins.
Exactly. And the sources point out, while humans are, pretty amazing cooperators compared to pigeons or even great apes, competition is evolutionarily much older. That instinct is still strong.
And cooperation links directly to trust. Right. Economists might say trusting strangers is irrational.
But the research shows we often have this excess of trust. We trust more than strict logic might dictate. Maybe it's a social norm. Maybe it's simple things like how easy someone's name is to pronounce, believe it or not. Trust is essential for culture. But like that Dutch saying, it's slow to build up and then quick to unravel. One betrayal can wreck it.
And when trust does break down, forgiveness comes into play for keeping relationships going.
Forgiveness, yeah. Defined as stopping the anger, letting go of the need for payback, releasing the debt, essentially. The sources stress how vital it is for long-term relationships, and it benefits the forgiver better health and the forgiven less guilt, maybe more gratitude. Studies show it actually builds relationship satisfaction, not just follows it.
Is there a downside? Like, does forgiving just encourage bad behavior?
Well, the findings are a bit mixed. Sometimes, maybe. But other studies show forgiveness, especially with a real apology or commitment, leads to more prosocial acts from the forgiven person. It seems linked to commitment and whether you can see their perspective, maybe think, I could have done that. Also, individual traits matter. Self-control, religiosity, cognitive function, linked to more forgiveness. Narcissism, linked to less.
And it's not just personal. The sources mention things like South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, forgiveness on a huge societal scale.
Exactly. Trying to navigate massive historical wrongs.
Okay, let's shift to behaviors that often get viewed negatively. Obedience and conformity. The sources argue these are often prosocial too.
Right. Obedience following orders from authority is necessary for groups to coordinate. Think military, surgical teams, businesses. Chaos otherwise. The problem, obviously, is when the orders themselves are wrong. Immoral.
Which brings us straight to the Milgram studies. Classic chilling stuff. The teacher giving shocks to the learner.
Increasing the voltage all the way up to 450 volts marked XXX. Fake shocks, of course, but the teacher didn't know that.
And the finding was just staggering. Psychiatrists predicted maybe 1 in 1,000 would go all the way.
But in reality, 62.5% did. 2/3. Later studies found similar rates.
It just shows the incredible power of the situation, of authority overriding personal morals for many.
It definitely gave obedience a bad name, particularly back in the 60s and 70s counterculture.
Yet the sources argue that generally willingness to obey legitimate authority is positive. It allows large groups to function, culture to succeed.
Milgram's a crucial warning about potential abuse, absolutely. But everyday obedience following traffic laws, workplace rules that supports the social fabric,
Okay, what about conformity? Just going along with the crowd.
that can be good or bad, as the sources point out. There's a funny example about ordering in a restaurant.
Oh yeah, the study where people eating together feel they have to order different things, even if they all secretly want the same dish.
Exactly. And the punchline, people who ordered something different just to avoid conforming.
Hmm.
They were actually less happy with their meal than those who just ordered what they wanted, even if it matched someone else.
Huh. So trying too hard not to conform doesn't always pay off.
Right. Sometimes just going with what you genuinely prefer, even if it aligns with others, is better. Conformity, like obedience, can smooth social interaction, make groups cohesive.
All right, let's dive into what most textbooks focus on when they talk pro-social behavior. Helping. Stepping in to benefit someone else.
And the sources make this key distinction. Altruistic helping versus egoistic helping.
Altruistic is driven by empathy,
Right.
right? Wanting to ease the other person's pain, expecting nothing back.
Whereas egoistic helping is motivated by self-interest. Feeling good, getting a reward, avoiding guilt, looking good to others.
Which gets into that big philosophical debate. Is pure altruism even possible? Or is all helping ultimately selfish because, hey, it makes the helper feel good?
The sources tackle this with research, like the Elaine study. Participants watched Elaine get shocks. Low empathy people helped only if they had to keep watching her suffer. Easy escape, they took it. But the high empathy people, they helped whether escape was easy or not. That strongly suggests an altruistic motive, helping because she was suffering. So yeah, feeling good might promote helping, but the sources suggest that doesn't make the act only selfish. You can feel good seeing others help too.
Okay, so people can be motivated by empathy. But why do they so often fail to help, especially in emergencies? The bystander effect.
It's a powerful phenomenon, often linked to cases like Kitty Genovese years ago, or more recently, Andries Tatane in South Africa, terrible situations with witnesses present.
And the explanation isn't usually that people are monsters. It's psychological obstacles, right? Darley and Latane's 5 steps to helping.
Exactly. The presence of other people throws up roadblocks at each step.
Step 1. You have to notice that. Notice something's happening. Obstacle. Distraction. Being wrapped up in your own stuff. Like being late.
That Good Samaritan study is perfect. Seminary students, even those about to talk about the Good Samaritan parable, if they were in a hurry, much less likely to help the person slumped in the doorway. They literally didn't see him.
Okay, step 2. Interpret it as an emergency. Obstacle. ambiguity. Is it serious? Or pluralistic ignorance. Everyone looks to everyone else, nobody reacts, so everyone assumes it's fine.
Or assuming it's a private matter, like that staged fight study. If it sounded like a couple arguing, people were way less likely to step in.
Step 3. Take responsibility.
Right.
Obstacle. Diffusion of responsibility. With a crowd, everyone thinks someone else will call 911 or someone else is more qualified.
That intercom study showed it clearly. Here's someone having a seizure. If you think you're the only witness, you help fast. If you think others hear it too, you're much slower or don't help at all. Responsibility gets spread too thin.
Step 4. Know how to help. Obstacle. Lack of competence. Feeling unqualified. Don't know CPR. Don't know who to call.
And the nurse study showed competence matters. Nurses, knowing what to do, weren't really affected by the bystander count.
And finally, step 5. Provide help. Obstacles here. Audience inhibition, fear of looking stupid, making a mistake in front of everyone.
Or just weighing the costs. Is it dangerous? Will it take too long? Get my clothes dirty? Practical stuff.
So given all those potential pitfalls, who is more likely to actually help?
Well, the sources discuss a few things. There seems to be evidence for a helpful personality trait, an altruistic personality. Measurable, maybe even partly genetic.
And gender plays a role, but it's complicated.
Yeah, nuanced is the word. Males tend to help more in public, with strangers, in emergency situations, the heroic stuff. Think Carnegie Medal winners, mostly men. Females tend to be more helpful in family contexts, close relationships, long-term care, volunteering. And females are also more likely to receive help.
Here's one that surprised me. People are more likely to help attractive individuals. Doesn't matter if the helper or victim is male or female.
It's true. Those studies in airports, phone booths, or male students giving money for a tetanus shot more readily to an attractive woman. It's a consistent finding.
And the sources mentioned the dark side of that. Criminals exploiting it. Like using an attractive woman faking car trouble for a hijacking in South Africa.
Which, understandably, can make people very wary, even if someone genuinely needs help. A terrible consequence.
Another factor is belief in a just world. How does that influence helping?
If you strongly believe people get what they deserve, you might be more likely to help someone you see as a good person, a deserving victim, but less likely to help someone you think brought it on themselves, blaming the victim.
Although believing the world is just can also motivate helping if you think doing good deeds means you're a good person who deserves good outcomes later.
Right, like those students volunteering right before exams, maybe hoping for some cosmic good karma.
Mood matters too, obviously. Good mood generally equals more helping.
Though some negative moods, like guilt, can also spur helping behavior, trying to make amends.
Okay, so knowing all the obstacles and influences, how can we actually increase helping, especially in emergencies?
The best advice is to reduce the uncertainty for bystanders. Cut through those 5 steps.
And that specific instruction the sources give is so clear and direct.
It really is. Pick a face, stare, speak, and point directly at the person. Say, "You, sir, in the red t-shirt, I need help. Call an ambulance now."
It singles someone out, removes ambiguity, assigns responsibility, tells them exactly what to do. Brilliant.
Absolutely. It tackles nearly all the bystander obstacles at once.
Education helps too, right? Just learning about the bystander effect makes you more likely to overcome it later.
Definitely. And modeling helps. Seeing others help parents, peers, even characters in TV shows or video games encourages prosocial behavior. Prosocial media has an effect.
And then there's the broader idea of moral inclusion.
Yeah, basically expanding your circle of who counts as us. Treating everyone, regardless of group, as part of your moral community, the human family.
There's even a scale for it. Identification with all humanity.
Right. People who score high tend to be more empathic, less prejudiced, more concerned about global issues, more likely to support humanitarian causes. It's about broadening who you feel responsible for.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. From basic rules and fairness
To cooperation, trust, forgiveness.
into obedience, conformity, the Milgram studies.
And finally, the complexities of helping the bystander effect and who steps up.
It's clear that prosocial behavior is just incredibly varied, isn't it?
Hmm.
And so fundamental to how we live together.
Absolutely. And shaped by this amazing mix of individual factors, the situation itself, and maybe even our evolutionary past.
And it seems less about waiting for superheroes.
And more about understanding the everyday choices. Cooperating, forgiving, trusting, following rules, and yes, helping when needed.
Just knowing about those obstacles, like diffusion of responsibility, maybe that empowers you, the listener, to push past them if you see something.
Hopefully, yeah, awareness is the first step.
So as you go about your day, what's the takeaway? Maybe next time you see someone who might need help or you face a conflict or decide whether to follow a rule, you'll think about some of this.
And here's a final thought to chew on, maybe. If the sources are right, that culture relies more on basic rule following and cooperation than on those dramatic acts of helping. What does that mean for how we raise kids? Or structure our workplaces or communities? Or even how we vote?
Are we maybe putting too much emphasis on celebrating the heroic helper compared to just reinforcing the everyday habits of cooperating and playing by the rules?
Something to think about.
Definitely something to mull over. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.